So in this video, we are going to discuss and analyze how a marking pattern happens in philosophy option. This is a copy of one of the candidate who is enrolled in our daily answer writing program, and many of these students they keep on asking that, sir, what are the criteria on which the marks are rewarded? What differentiates my answer from the others, that they get 6.5 or 7 out of 10 and I only get 4 out of 10, 4.5 out of 10? So what are those things? So in this video I'll try to demystify all those factors which come into play when an examiner, a reviewer is reviewing your copy. I've been working in this field for last 4 years with many institute, popular institute. Now we have started our own initiative on the popular demand, and in this video we will try to learn how the evaluation happens for a question of UPSC mains. This will also benefit other students because for the fundamentals remains the same. Whenever a question is presented to you, question is sort of a problem which is presented to you by the examiner, then the examiner has certain format in his mind which is expecting you to deliver on the paper. If you are able to deliver in that format, you get better marks. Then again, content again is another factor which is also taken into account when providing the marks. But the format thing is something which is universal, so that you can understand from this video as well. So let's get started. First question is, this candidate has written on a philosopher named Plato. How does Plato use the theory of forms to establish relation between epistemology and metaphysics? So see, when examiner is evaluating your copy, the most important thing for an examiner is that, have you understood the demand of the question? Have you understood the question? Have you understood the demand of the question? Now what does it mean to understand the demand of the question? And what does it mean to understand the question? To understand the question means, have you understood what the question is trying to say? This is the understanding part. Second is, have you understood what are the different dimensions in which you have to address this question? What are some hidden parts which you will have to address in order to give a holistic conclusion to this answer? So examiner is looking on that part, and he wants you to be very specific in this approach. So when you are starting, let's say this is the question. So how does Plato, he's a philosopher, he has a theory called as theory of forms, through which he gives a worldview, that he explains the world. And this theory of forms has been asked in relation between epistemology and metaphysics. Epistemology is theory of knowledge and metaphysics is theory of reality. So how this person establishes this to connect these two, metaphysics and epistemology? This is the question. So this becomes the nerve. The theory of forms becomes the nerve of the question. Hence, the introduction must start from this part. Always try to find out कि nerve क्या है question की. वो नर्व जिससे बाकी चीजें कनेक्ट हो रही है, तो जो नर्व है वहीं से हमको इंट्रोड्यूस करना है क्वेश्चन को. In this case, it is theory of forms. So start with theory of forms. This candidate has started with theory of forms by saying that this theory is quintessential link between the Plato's epistemology and metaphysics. This is a fair introduction. They could have also explained the theory of forms, which have been better, right? But this is also acceptable because it is a 10 marker. So okay, this is fine. It is in the context, okay. Then the candidate explains actually what is theory of forms. Theory of forms. Forms are the transcendental ideas which are eternal, free, independent archetypes of the perceptual world, of the phenomenal world. He uses analogies like copy theory, recollection theory to explain the forms. So this is very good. This is very good because first of all, the candidate has established a link between, has shown that this theory is a link between epistemology and metaphysics, and then the candidate has also explained what this theory is all about, That too in the context of, he says that copy theory, recollection theory, and which explains the form. So which is the metaphysics of Plato. And he also talks about the perceptual objects. So in this way he also talks about the epistemological part. So introduction also, he's trying to show the link between the epistemology and metaphysics through theory of forms. So this is very good. This is a contextual intro. Okay, this is very well received by the examiner. Now what are the hidden questions? First of all, you have to show that Plato's theory of form, how it relates to epistemology and metaphysics. You have to show it. अभी तो आपने सिर्फ इंट्रोडक्शन में दिया है बहुत एक ब्रॉडर बात. Now I have to show the relation, how it relates. So now the candidate has also made a subheading which is appreciable, because examiner must understand at the outset that you have answered the question, you have understood the demand of the question. So now candidate writes, knowledge, that epistemology is the recollection theory of forms, recollection of forms, that is metaphysics. Now this is very important, because Plato says that knowledge and knower becomes one when realizes. When the knower realizes that I already had the knowledge even before birth, the imprint of knowledge was already there, it is just that I forgot. When I descended from the world of forms to this perceptual world, this led to forgetfulness of the being. So as soon as this person, when I descended to this place, as soon as I am able to recollect my original knowledge, I become what I was. So knowledge is the recollection of forms that had forgotten due to fallenness of the being. So that is good, very good. Now the candidate shows how the soul's spiritual, and there are certain things. So this is the issue, because this is not understandable. What is this? This is also not understandable. But one thing is understandable, that okay, he is trying to show souls, and with the forms, he is showing that souls have knowledge and theory of divided line, showing connection with metaphysics, then hierarchy of the forms. So this is fair, because a few things have not been very clear in this example, although examiner would be able to understand what you are trying to say, because he knows that you are trying to show the theory of divided line and the hierarchy of forms. But if you make it very clear and don't just scribble the words, it will be better in presentation. Then he talks about the cave analogy to explain the interlinkage between world of sorrow and ignorance and the world of forms. Good. Each soul has memory of the forms. It requires rational insight, which rational insight again is the epistemological part, and rational insight is the insight of the forms, which is necessary to know the ultimate form. That is the idea of good. In Plato's metaphysics, the idea of good is the apex reality. It is the summum bonum of the reality. It is the highest reality. Theory of divided line, he shows, this is when the knowledge becomes the form. To know is to be. So this is the actual crux of the question, because the examiner wants to know that whether you know this part or not. Plato says to know is to be, very much like Shankaracharya. Very much like Shankaracharya. Shankaracharya says to know Brahman is to become Brahman. It is sort of a soteriological knowledge. Soteriological matlab एक immediate knowledge. Immediate. There is no mediation here. It is also called as aparoksha anubhuti. So this way, and you can also compare with Shankaracharya. This he has not done, but you can do it. do this, so it will add much more depth to your answer. And then he has criticized the view because there was certainly issues with philosophy of Plato, which his student Aristotle tried to correct. So criticism is very much invited here. He says that Plato uses metaphors and analogies and couldn't explain the logical relationship between phenomena and transcendental. Okay, that's fine. Forms are static in nature, which cannot explain dynamism. That is true, because how can a static entity explain dynamism? This is a classical problem in philosophy. A static reality cannot cause dynamism, and if it causes dynamism, then it is not static. How can an unchangeable thing cause change? How an unchangeable thing causes change? And if it causes change, then it is not unchangeable. Again, a fundamental issue. Then he says, how does individual's object participate in the idea's totality? This is also a question. And then he concludes that on a positive line, that despite these shortcomings, Plato's importance in synthesizing the pre-existing diverging chains and for creating the path for Aristotle formed matter. So yeah, this is acceptable, because ultimately you will have to present a balanced conclusion. You cannot be biased in favor of Plato or against Plato. Okay. So in this question, I had already awarded him 5.5 marks. Why so? Why not 5? Why not 4 marks? Why not 7 marks? See, the major marking that happens on the understanding of the question part. So let's say the question is of 10 marker. If you have understood the question and written a relevant content, you will get at least 5 marks. If you have understood the question and have written relevant content, I am not talking about differentiated content, I am not talking about डेप्थ ऑफ कंटेंट, अगर इतना भी आपने लिखा है कि क्वेश्चन ने क्या पूछा है, आपने उसके हिसाब से चीज़ें कुछ लिख दी जो रेलेवेंट हैं, तो एटलीस्ट यू विल गेट 5 मार्क्स. फिर उसके बाद होता है वैल्यू एडिशन, उसके ऊपर होता है मार्क्स एडिशन एक्चुअली. उसके बाद अगर आपने थोड़ी सी और चीज़ें कुछ एक्स्ट्रा करी है, कहीं पे क्रिटिसिज्म डाल दिया, ठीक है, आपने कहीं पे कुछ ऐसे स्कीमास डाल दिए, स्कीमेटिक, जहाँ जो कि बहुत अच्छे से चीज़ों को समझा रही हो, तो फिर आपके मार्क्स बढ़ते जाते हैं. हम अपने टेस्ट, हम डेली इवैल्यूएशन के अंदर थोड़ी स्ट्रिक्ट मार्किंग करते हैं, तो हम इस 5 को, यूपीएससी के 5 को हम 4 पे लेके आते हैं, हम 4 मार्क्स ही देते हैं. उसके बाद क्योंकि स्टूडेंट और इम्प्रूव करे इसलिए उसके बाद हम चालू करते हैं. जैसे ये कैंडिडेट है, इसने अगर हम देखें इंट्रोडक्शन के अंदर इसने इतना समझा दिया था मुझे कि मैं इसको कम से कम 4 मार्क्स तो देके जाऊंगा इस आंसर के अंदर, ये बात पक्की है, क्योंकि इंट्रोडक्शन से मुझे पता लग गया था कि दिस कैंडिडेट नोज दिस स्टफ. अब उसके बाद से मैंने मार्किंग चालू करी है कि उसने उसके बाद बताया थ्योरी ऑफ फॉर्म्स, उसने उसके बाद बताया रैशनल इनसाइट, टू नो इज टू बी, ये सब. तो यहाँ पे मैं उसके हाफ मार्क्स बढ़ाते जा रहा हूँ, हाफ मार्क्स बढ़ाते जा रहे हैं, और लास्ट में लाते जाते इनके मार्क्स 5.5. सो दिस इज हाउ वी इवेलुएट इन यूपीएससी के अंदर. And see, this answer could have become a 7 marker answer also, because I do believe that UPSC does give 7 marks. That's why only, because इसी वजह से हम देखते हैं कि कैंडिडेट्स के 319 मार्क्स भी आते हैं, 360 मार्क्स भी आते हैं ऑप्शनल्स के अंदर, यूपीएससी देती है मार्क्स. What could have made it a 7 mark answer? Comparison with Shankaracharya, clear diagrams. Okay, there is some sort of repetition here which could have also been reduced, and use of the book names. For example, in his epistemological part is presented in Theaetetus, Phaedo, right, and his metaphysical part you'll find in Timaeus, Republic, Fido, right? So also using the book names of the candidate of the philosopher in question, so इससे क्या हो गया, और ऑथेंटिसिटी आपके आंसर में आ गई, ठीक है। इन चीज़ों से आपके मार्क्स यहाँ से बूस्ट करके 6, 6.5, 7 भी जा सकते हैं, डिपेंडिंग ऑन हाउ मच वैल्यू एडिशन यू आर डूइंग। बेसिक आंसर के आपको 5 मार्क्स मिलेंगे यूपीएससी के अंदर, उसके ऊपर जो चीज़ें होती हैं वो आपके वैल्यू एडिशन के बेसिस पे होती हैं। सो दिस एक क्वेश्चन के थ्रू हमने जानने की कोशिश करी कि क्राइटेरिया क्या होता है आंसर इवैल्यूएशन का और मार्किंग का, एंड विल ट्राई टू मेक सब्सिक्वेंट वीडियोस, और वीडियोस बनाएंगे इसके ऊपर ताकि ये चीज़ें और ज़्यादा डीमिस्टिफाई हो जाए। वी वांट कैंडिडेट्स टू स्कोर वेरी हाई। If you are facing any problem with respect to philosophy option, do contact us. We have given the link of the Telegram channel in the description. Thank you for watching. Have a good day.